Welcome to another Disciple Dojo Study Bible review. In this video, we're going to be looking at the ESV Global Study Bible by Crossway. It's available in paperback and in hardback, which is the edition I have. It's 1,984 pages with 16 pages of maps in the back. Now, this is a condensed version of the ESV Study Bible. So if you haven't seen our review of the ESV Study Bible, click right here and it'll take you to that video. The Global Study Bible took the ESV Study Bible and condensed the notes and the content to make it available in places outside of North America in a more cost-effective manner. And you can see this in a number of ways. For instance, it is double columned and very little marginal room, whereas the ESV Study Bible was single columned with a good bit of marginal room and cross references along the center. The Global Study Bible, no real marginal room, and the cross references are just given at the bottom. So cuts down on space, on paper usage, and it's about 500 or so pages less in terms of material than the ESV Study Bible. And where the ESV Study Bible has full color maps, the Global Study Bible maps are all duotone. So they're going to be not exactly black and white, but kind of a more tan, sepia, gray and white color scheme. So for the most part, the contributors are the same in the Global Study Bible as the ESV Study Bible contributors, with a few exceptions. The main difference being that for the global notes and the discussions of global church issues, Ijit Fernando, the Sri Lankan Director of Youth for Christ and a fellow alum of Gordon Conwell Seminary, which is where I went, is the editor for the global material. The other editors are the same: J.I. Packer, Wayne Grudem, C. John Collins, Thomas Schreiner. So the addition of Ijit Fernando is what makes the Global Study Bible material separate from the ESV Study Bible material in some ways. Whereas the ESV Study Bible book introductions were like commentary level book introductions, the book introductions in the Global Study Bible are very stripped down. This is the book introduction to Genesis, and it's only one page and an outline. So a lot less material than what you find in the ESV Study Bible in the book introductions. But the Global Study Bible does have this thing at the beginning of each book called the global message of, and then the book. So there's the global message of Genesis, the global message of Exodus. So at the beginning of each book, there's an essay that sets that book in the big picture of the overall mission of God, the overall global big picture of the Bible. And then the other feature that the ESV Study Bible doesn't have, at the end of the ESV Study Bible, we talked about how there was like 100 pages of biblical theology essays. At the end of the Global Study Bible, instead of that, you get a series of essays on issues that are global in scope by contributors from different parts of the world. So most of the contributors in the ESV Study Bible were North American and European. Contributors to the essays at the end of the Global Study Bible truly are a wide array. I'll read you their names. The Importance of the Global Church by Hao Chong Chua from Singapore. Great Truths of the Bible by Matthew Ebenezer from India. Mission and Evangelism by Ijit Fernando from Sri Lanka. Personal Ethics by Benjamin F. Intan from Indonesia. The Reliability and Authority of the Bible by Inwan Kim from South Korea. Social Ethics by James H. O. Combo from Kenya. The Value and Dignity of Human Life by Chi Chu Lee from Singapore. How to Read and Understand the Bible by Conrad Mbewe from Zambia. How to Apply the Bible in Daily Life, also by Conrad Mbewe from Zambia. Major World Religions by Howard Netland and Marvin Wilson from the USA. Biblical Ethics and Introduction by Diumeme Noesti. I butchered that name. I'm sorry, Diumeme Noeliste. Terrible. The Purpose and Role of Government by Michael O. from Japan. Marriage and Sexual Morality by Yusufu Turaki from Nigeria. And God's Global Plan of Salvation by Philemon Young from Cameroon. So they got an array of biblical theologians or leaders or scholars from all over the world to contribute essays at the end of this study Bible that seek to address issues that may not even be on the radar outside of North America. So you'll find discussions of things like polygamy, for instance, or ancestor worship, or the tendency of animism, witch doctors. These are things that you're not going to get a lot of discussion of in the ESV Study Bible because this is primarily a Western context, and most of the contributors are coming from that view. But in the Global Study Bible, you will get discussion of issues that are outside of the scope of most North American Christians. And that is really valuable. That's probably the strength of this study Bible, are the global essays and the global book introductions to each book. In addition, when you purchase the Global Study Bible, you get a coupon that gives you access to the online digital version. And it also provides access to it for one other person somewhere in the world. Clever marketing, sure, but also to get this material out to people who may not be able to afford it, who may not have the resources to buy their own copy, but they do have access to the internet, and so they at least have access to the material in the study notes. The more people buy this Bible, I guess that's how it's supposed to work. Now, when we come to Genesis, the notes are going to be pretty much exactly what you find in the ESV Study Bible. But one thing that's unfortunate is the notes are condensed and some things just get left out for no reason, or at least I don't understand why. I'll give you an example. In Genesis 6, the note on Genesis 6 of the sons of God and the daughters of man, a very famously mysterious and disputed passage in terms of interpretations, the note in the ESV Study Bible gives you the three main interpretations of who these sons of God and daughters of men are, and then lets you kind of make up your mind. Inexplicably, the Global Study Bible only names two of the views. It doesn't give the third view. So it's weird that it leaves out one of the major views on that particular passage. I don't know why. You got to save space, but that just seems pretty significant, and I don't know why they would cut that out. So it's kind of strange. Everything else in terms of interpreting the creation days, young earth, old earth, ancient Near East accounts, the ages of people, the extent of the flood, all of those things, the notes, again, they're the same as the ESV Study Bible, just more condensed. However, unlike the ESV Study Bible, the Global Study Bible, in its book Introduction to Genesis, has a discussion of issues around sexuality and marriage, as well as ethnicity and genocide and tribalism, and also a deeper discussion on environmental concerns. Issues that are very important in the global context of the church are dealt with in more detail in this one, in the opening essays, but not in the notes themselves. And so when we get to Exodus in the Global Study Bible, there's a discussion right at the beginning in the global introduction that talks about concepts like human trafficking and poverty and political power and oppression and the issue of refugees and immigration, which are pressing global issues around the world. Again, hats off to this study Bible for addressing those in the book introduction, so readers can at least keep an eye out for, hey, I'm going to encounter this issue as I read through this book. Let me start thinking about it. And that's a really good thing. For the other observations, they're basically the same as the ESV Study Bible in terms of Exodus. And when we get to Romans, pretty much what you're going to find in the ESV Study Bible, but drastically condensed, disappointingly condensed. And those passages that Christians have differing interpretations on, the notes in the Global Study Bible are almost 3 times shorter on those passages than the notes in the ESV Study Bible. That's really disappointing to me because it's shortchanging the global church in terms of theological discussion. The ESV Study Bible did a good job of saying, here are the issues where Christians differ, and here's why they differ. And yes, it had its own leanings, but it would at least alert the reader that there are other views out there. The Global Study Bible, from what I've seen, very little of that actually happens, which is unfortunate because it's denying theological discussion and formulation and wrestling that's necessary for biblical theology to a global audience. And that's unfortunate. I think the global church needs to be, well, it already is, but just in its resources, the global church needs to be included on these discussions because theology is for the whole body, not just European and North American Christians. And when we get to Revelation, the notes, again, largely the same as the ESV Study Bible. We always look at the Laodicea church, and the historical background helps us understand and interpret the words of the text in chapter 3. And where the ESV Study Bible has a good discussion of Laodicea and the aqueduct system and how it piped in, both of its hot and its cold water, and therefore why lukewarm would be the image that Jesus uses to describe the church. There's no mention of the aqueduct system at all in the Global Study Bible. It just says hot's good, cold's good, lukewarm, not so good. So it's got a little bit of the information, but it just leaves out so much that wouldn't take more than 1 or 2 lines in that particular note. I think that's what I find so frustrating about the Global Study Bible. I can't seem to figure out why they would have left out the things that they left out from the ESV Study Bible. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me in the little bit that I've been able to review here. I was excited when I got this because the ESV Study Bible is a good study Bible. Ajit Fernando I've met him before. We were at Christ at the Checkpoint conference in Bethlehem a few years ago, and his work is great. I love what he's doing, his writings. He's a solid Wesleyan evangelical scholar. He's from Asbury and kind of outside of the typical group that is usually associated with the ESV Study Bible. So I was excited for that. But other than the global essays and the global book introductions, this actually was a disappointing study Bible, honestly. What they cut out of the notes from the ESV Study Bible made it seem like they were trying to save money and save space, but at the expense of cutting out some pretty important discussions from the notes. And honestly, one of the areas that is most disappointing is how the Global Study Bible assumes a complementarian interpretation without giving any credibility or any weight to non-complementarian ways of reading the text. And that seems counterproductive to me because the global church is made up of complementarian and non-complementarian Christians. I mean, there are tens of millions of Methodists in Africa that have very little use for the interpretations of key passages in the Bible as they're presented in the Global Study Bible. That's just one example. So as a non-complementarian, when I read the ESV Study Bible, even though they end up taking a position that I don't end up agreeing with all the time, they, for the most part, do a good job about acknowledging that the other side exists, even if they say, but this is why we believe this. You don't get that in the Global Study Bible nearly as much, if any. And honestly, that's really disappointing to me because a good study Bible on issues where Christians in good faith disagree should present more than one particular perspective. And this is honestly just comes across as reading a Wayne Grudem manifesto on gender a lot of times, which if you're a fan of Wayne Grudem and his views on gender, you're going to love it. This is the Bible for you. But if you're outside of that tradition, then that's a weakness in this Bible. So would I recommend the Global Study Bible? I really want to recommend it, but I can't when the ESV Study Bible's out there. This is a not as good version of this, honestly. Yeah, this does cover some things that this doesn't cover, and it does talk about some issues that affect the global church, but you would be better off, honestly, getting a good ESV Study Bible and then one of the global commentaries that are out there that do address those issues. Some of the stuff from Langham Partnership, like the South Asia Bible Commentary, or the Africa Bible Commentary, or the Middle East Bible Commentary, or any of the other resources that Langham Partnership puts out. If you're not familiar with Langham, it's what John Stott Ministries has become since John Stott passed away, and it's headed by Christopher Wright, who is unashamedly my theological man crush. I think you would be better off just getting an ESV Study Bible if you are wedded to the ESV and you're a Crossway person till you die. Then get the ESV Study Bible and supplement it with some global focused resources. I like what they tried to do. I like the intention behind this a lot. I really do. So is it worth having? It's not bad. I mean, having it on the shelf would be nice. For global Christians who don't have a study Bible or who can't afford or don't have access and aren't able to get an ESV Study Bible, then I guess this could be an okay substitute for it. I was just very disappointed with it because I think my expectations were so high given how good Ajit Fernando is in his other writings and his work. I'm not sure how much beyond those essays and book intros he really contributed to this project. It's just missing a lot of the strengths of the ESV Study Bible, but it has all of the weaknesses of the ESV Study Bible, if that makes sense. I wouldn't go out of my way to get a copy, honestly. But again, this is just my perspective. This is my own thoughts using it. Here at Disciple Dojo, our reviews are going to be honest and I'm going to do the best I can to call out the strengths and the weaknesses. In this case, the weaknesses kind of detract from the strengths a little bit. So those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Have you used it? Are you a fan? Do you prefer the ESV Study Bible? Do you think there's a way that Crossway could get the content of the ESV Study Bible out to a global audience with the global notes included in a way that wasn't cost prohibitive? Or is this the compromise that's needed in order to get that to happen? Those are real discussions, and there's no right or wrong answer. So it's something to think about. As always, if you like this review, or even if you don't like this review but you appreciate it, I would appreciate you subscribing and clicking the notification button and checking out what else we have to offer here on the Disciple Dojo YouTube channel. Hundreds of hours of free teaching. We've got over a dozen study Bible reviews in the playlist that's always being added to. And if you haven't checked out Superhero Seminary yet, definitely click right here to that playlist, because that's the most fun thing we do here at Disciple Dojo, I think. That's it, guys. Thanks for joining me for this review. See you next time.